what life would be like if you could not sweat despite feeling too much heat in your body? Well, I'm sure many might think that this is a great idea since sweat to many is always considered as a nuisance. However, this story that revolves around more than about 40 members of the Ilimanyang community in Turkana County will show you just how much you should value your ability to sweat, especially now that the world is grappling with the adverse effects of climate change. This community cannot shed even a single drop of sweat despite the hot weather experienced in Turkana County. Affected by this rare condition and now presents to you a sweatless survival, a piece that I'll leave you to watch as I say kwaheri, looking forward to see you again tomorrow.
As the sun rays pierce through the earth's surface, it is a new dawn. And as is always the norm, many just can't wait to get through a new day. But that is not the case for the Ilimanyang community in Turkana County. To this community, as the flickering light of the sun illuminates, their worst nightmare sets in. This is a story of a community that cannot sweat despite the soaring temperatures of about 30.77 degrees Celsius witnessed in the vast county of Turkana. Turkana County is Kenya's largest county by land area, occupying about 77,000 square kilometers, which is equivalent to the countries of Rwanda, Burundi, and Gambia put together. The county is home to over 926,000 people and boasts of rich culture, from the elaborate clothing and adornment styles to their traditional songs and dance. To strangers, this harsh environment is inhospitable. The parched landscape, the scorching sun, baking heat, and dry sand blown by the strong winds paints a picture of the adverse impacts of climate change in this county. The wrath of Mother Nature in this arid land cuts deeper through the skin of members of the Ilimanyang community, whose peculiar story will shock you to the core. 58.2 kilometers from Lodwar town lies Kalokol Ward. The strong and durable nature of locals in this tough environment cannot be disregarded. In this homestead, we meet 7-year-old Peter Couture, who captures our attention. His physical appearance is unique. He has light, sparse brown hair, a flat nasal bridge, full everted lips, a dark pigmentation around the eyes, and lacks both the eyebrows and the eyelashes. His skin from the facial area all through to the lower limbs is extremely dry, to the extent that you can see some white patches. The discomfort is written all over Couture's face every passing minute. He has to quickly rush to this 20-liter jerrycan of water to sprinkle some water on his body. Within no time, his clothes are drenched in water. Couture is living with a rare genetic condition, making it impossible for him to sweat, and instead he has to regularly cool his body using water to regulate his temperature.
I always pour water on my body, and I always carry water from home to school using a small jerry can.
We don't have skin breathing pulse completely. So unajua jasho inatoka na skin breathing pulse. Kama saa tu inatoka wapi? Sasa but sasa ile wakati temperature inaenda juu, mwili uko ndani inajua kwamba inafaa kutoa jasho. So unapata ukipata hii ngozi ya watu iko unaona kama imechomeka, inakaa kama iko na maalama, si hii alama chenye inakosi alama ni vile hii wakati joto inakuwa juu sana, ngozi ina contrast. Na iko contrast hivyo inajaribu ku breathe out. Inakaa kama maragwe. Umeona vile maragwe inachemuka alafu maji ishi. Hiyo sasa ina behave inataka kutoa hiyo hewa nje. Sasa kwa hiyo harakati ya kutoa hiyo hewa nje ndio inachoma au hiyo ngozi. Nikitembea kwa jua na ngozi yangu inataka ku breathe, inajishika, yani inashikana hivi, inakuja pamoja. Inataka kutoa hiyo jasho lakini haitoi. Sasa kwa hiyo matundu inangangana kutoa ndio inaweka hizo maalama.
This is Couture's younger brother. He's only 5 months old, but he was also born with a condition. They inherited the condition from their mother. Couture needs to pour water on his body after every 10 to 15 minutes. However, his sister Mercy Ekwom tells us the biggest challenge is that water is a very scarce commodity, especially in this village.
Maji. Tunatoa maji mbali sana huku. Maji ni mbali sana. Sasa utaweza tumia hata 2 hours ukitembea kwa barabara, kurudi tena ni 2 hours.
Still in Kaloko Ward, we visit the humble home of Selina Apitet, a mother of 7. 5 of her children are living with the same condition. They cannot sweat. We find her in the company of her 2 children as she stares at the grave of her 9-year-old son who died in 2017. She tells us the deceased, who also had the condition, was on his way to get water to cool his body but collapsed and died on the spot as he was overpowered by the heat in his body. For now, Apitet has 4 children left, all with severe symptoms of the condition.
The main challenge is that my children pour water on themselves and we have a huge problem with water. I also can't leave my children alone, hence I'm forced to stay at home. My husband is just a fisherman. Some neighbors are good while others are not. Some do not allow my kids to play with their kids, fearing that they may acquire the condition.
In Kalokol, last financial year, we drilled actually 2 boreholes, and our intention again was to do a pipeline to where the storage tank is. And that was our intention again of improving water access in Kalokol. But again this year, our budget again is actually planned to put, we have actually planned 40 million again to improve the water access in Kalokol.
From Kalokol, this rough and dusty road leads us to the remote village of Kapua. Children are all over the place, rolling jerrycans of water on the rocky ground. This is enough evidence of the acute water shortage in this ward. We proceed to visit a homestead with 9 children, 6 of whom are living with the condition. We observe them having bread for lunch. It is crucial to highlight that those with this condition must consume their meals within an hour's interval. Failing to do so poses the risk of fainting or even death.
Ndio hao watu wakae for long. Hatari yao tu ni moja, ni jua na chakula. Unajua kama sasa kwa hii harsh environment, temperature iko very high. Hata hiyo enzymes yao kwa tumbo inaenda faster, so they need a lot of food to eat to maintain even their energy.
Meet 35-year-old Lomamtal Ngaukon. He is the eldest son in this family. He is among the 6 living with the condition. Lomamtal is fortunate enough to have made it to this age, considering that many others have died at a young age.
We the Ilimanyang believe that it is God who created us. We cannot sweat. Water is our sweat. I am forced to carry this jerrycan of water wherever we go. If we don't, then we die. We don't have water here, so many a times we are forced to go all the way to the borehole, which is at least 6 kilometers away. For now, the drought is so severe, we go all the way to Lake Turkana. Our life is difficult under the scorching heat from the sun. We also do not have enough teeth. We cannot take part in strenuous activities as our body generates too much heat, which in turn endangers our lives. Previously, we were isolated from community meetings as we always had to pour water on our body. But with time, the community has been more accommodating to those of us who are affected. I want the government to solve the water problem because water is life, without which we would lose our lives. We also want economic empowerment and of important access to education for our children. I also want to relocate to an environment where the weather is favorable.
We are the 6th generation in Turkana County. Our fathers died. The father of our fathers died. Saizi hapa utaona mtu mwenye ako hold kabisa hapa hivi. Apart from women, but the condition is very harsh to men. All men, including my father who was affected. He died, including their brothers. All of them, they died.
18-year-old James Erot is now in grade 7. For now, he is at home as schools have been closed. He informs us that when he goes to school, he would rather forget his books but not his jerrycan of water. And he is normally forced to walk out of the classroom to sprinkle some water on his body.
Shida ambayo niko nayo ya kujimwagilia maji. Wakati jua inachomoza, au mwili nasikia joto, au naanza kujimwagilia maji. Nashika maji kwa mkebe. Shida ya nywele ni Mungu ndiye ameumba hivyo. Na naona Mungu ndiye aliumba hata hiyo. Akaweka hivyo ikiwa mbili hivyo.
Sasa unakula chakula aina gani?
Nakula chakula kama mchele na unga.
It is now 5 p.m. and Lomamtal's mother is preparing supper for her children. This is not an ordinary meal. She has to crush maize using these 2 special stones to form a smooth porridge-like paste which will make it easier for her children to consume, bearing in mind that they lack enough teeth and saliva needed to lubricate the meals.
The life of my children is really tough and it really pains my heart, but there's nothing I can do if it's God's will for now. I am grateful that my children are grown up. When they were young, I was very worried, especially if I was not at home. I was living in fear that they might miss water when they needed it. This stone is used to crush the maize. My children cannot chew the maize due to their weak and very few teeth. Hence, I crush it to make it soft enough.
Nancy Ebolon is also living with the condition, but she carries a story of success. Nancy has been able to study up to university level. Despite her being raised in the same harsh environment, she rose against all odds to the point that she secured an employment opportunity at the Turkana County Assembly.
So, kwa sababu mimi sikuwa na mtu wa kumshika mkono, kwa sababu sina watu wangu huko mbele. Jamii yetu yote ndio iko bado nyuma, hata kusoma bado ni shida. Hakuna mtu kwa mbele, so that's why I went. Nikaangalia hiyo petition ya kuna ma petitions zilikuwa zinaandikwa hapo hivyo. Mimi na nikaangalia hizo petition, nikachukua moja, nikaenda nika copy paste, nika draft, then nika fix maneno yetu yote ndani. Baada ya kufix maneno yote ndani, I thank God kulikuwa na leaders ambao wanaweza sikiza mtu. Nikachukua lawyer, nikaenda mpaka kwa bunge. It was hard for them even to listen to me because that moment I was a very young girl. I was around 21 years. Na kutoka hapo hivyo nikakuja na committee mpaka hapa, tukaenda all over, tukaenda around na wakaconfirm yote. Na immediately walikuja wakapitisha na hasira kwa sababu waliona vile watu wanasuffer. In fact, they were suffering more.
Michael Lepe is the MCA for Kaloko Ward. He now expands on some of the bills presented before the Turkana County Assembly to benefit members of the Ilimanyang community.
Nilipata mpango ambaye ilikuwa na county government kwamba wamekuwa wakiwabajetia pesa ambazo ni za kuprovide hao chakula, na imekuwa ikipeanwa isipokuwa kuna wakati walikuwa wamenijulisha kwamba wamekuwa wakiletewa some hard foods like maize, wakasema wanafaa kubadilishiwa ile chakula. Besides that, walikuwa wanafaa kwa hiyo budget, kwa the same budget wanafaa kuprovidewa vitu kama kwa mfano uniforms, because kuna wale wanaenda shule. Na unajua hao ni watu ambaye hawawezi fanya kazi kama sisi wale watu wengine kwa sababu ya ile hali ya ngozi yao, kwa sababu haiwezi stahimili ile hali ya joto na jua.
But just what exactly is ailing members of this community? Dr. Gilchrist Locoel is the Chief Officer for Medical Services in Turkana County and now gives us a medical explanation.
My analysis and experience of managing these individuals, they suffer from a rare genetical disorder called hypohidrotic ectodermal dysplasia. Hypohidrotic ectodermal dysplasia is actually a rare genetical disorder that affects several genes within the X chromosome. And the genes in mind are the EDA gene, EDAR gene, EDARADD gene. So they have fewer sweat glands or at times absent sweat glands. So you can imagine the entire heat of the body being trapped within yourself. And so these actually makes them most of the time to suffer from a medical condition called hypothermia. That is, the heat is raised. In children, they have fevers throughout. In adults, that is why they need to cool themselves in order to survive.
Over 17,000 people in the world are living with ectodermal dysplasia. Those living with the condition have a survival rate ranging from 88.7% to 97.6%.
And in terms of treatment or management, there is little or less that you can be able to do. For example, the issue of hypothermia. They are encouraged to put on cold vests. You know, in the developed world, such kind of things exist. But here, you just have to wet the vest, you have to wet the body in order to sort of cool them down. Rooms that have air conditioners is what is encouraged. And the other thing is just managed, conservatively.
History has it that originally the population of the Ilimanyang community living in two villages of Kapua and Kalokol on Lake Turkana Island was only 99. Currently, the number stands at 47, 21 being children.
All of them, they are very bright. All of them. Hakuna hata mwenye unasema anakusumbua kwa shule ati mwenye anaperform na low marks hakuna. Alafu there is another thing about the positive side of these people. When they are exposed in harsh environment, wagonjwa kangi you cannot measure hata malaria. Huwezi. Yani joto iko juu, nini virus inaingia na kill.
They are also amenable to dermatological conditions. For example, eczema. Upper respiratory tract infections, because even their mucous membranes, they get affected. And therefore, also in terms of their immunity, the T lymphocytes, or those blood cells that normally help them to fight diseases, they are also low.
You may have also noticed that the symptoms are more severe in males than in females. Dr. Locoel explains why this is the case.
Women, they have two X's in their chromosome, and usually it's only one X. And women don't use both X's. Usually the dominant X, you can have a dominant X that is okay. And therefore, even if the other one is the hypohidrotic ectodermal dysplasia is on this one, manifestations of it becomes nothing, none, or mild. But for men, that X chromosome that you have, see, XY, when it gets hit, then that's it.
Access to water is a huge challenge in Turkana County, with only approximately 40% of the Turkana population having access to clean water. This is not only due to the dry climate and worsening drought, but also inadequate water resource development and management.
We already have a partner who has indicated to us that they want to sink or rehabilitate 300 balls with regards to, in response to issues of climate change. And that will go into place of doing afforestation, and it's going to be a way of mitigation of the issues of climate change.
Our major issue here is salinity. We may drill the 60 balls or 30 balls, but in most cases, the water becomes saline.
We also spoke to Turkana Governor Jeremiah Lomorukai on the water scarcity issue, especially among the Ilimanyang community and Turkana County at large. He tells us that a budget of 40 million Kenya shillings has been set aside to address the water scarcity menace.
Kwa equalization fund tumeweka zaidi ya 186 million. Yote ukiweka tutakuwa na over 200 million ya kuweza kutengeneza maji ya Kalokol wherever we will get enough water, hata kama ni kwa river Takwel, tuhakikishe kwamba maji hayo yanakuwa channel mpaka Kalokol. So in the next few months or so, or even next year, we will have completed the issues of water for Kalokol people.
Tuko na kisima iko mahali inaitwa Nabuin. Nabuin is 3 kilometers from Kapua Center. Mahali penyao Ilimanyang wako. So ile kitu ile proposal nilikuwa nimepeana kwa ministry ni kupipe ile maji. Ni kupipe na kuweka tank. So hiyo ndio kitu ambayo iko kwa plan. Tutafanya tu hiyo piping iende mpaka kwa hiyo kijiji ambayo hao watu wako.
According to the UN Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, as of September 2023, over 30% cases of acute malnutrition were reported in Turkana South. Plans are also underway to supply relief food to those affected, while acknowledging the existence and hardship faced by members of the Ilimanyang community. Governor Lomorukai states that plans are underway to ensure the affected community receives food.
Tumeweka over 45 million ya kutengeneza drip irrigation scheme. And he visited na akaona vile inaendelea, vile hiyo drip imewekwa vizuri, na pia iko katika sehemu ya Kalimoro, ingine tunaweka Katilu, ingine tunaweka Ngalita, na kwa hii budget tumeweka tena zaidi ya 10 na kitu. Kwa sababu tunataka kupunguza mambo ya uhaba wa chakula katika county yetu ya Turkana. We have allocated over 200 million to support the issues of climate change. And then the national government is giving us a matching grant of, again, over 200 or 300 million. And we have identified land also for doing similar projects for climate change.
When the sun sets, the Ilimanyang community breathes a sigh of relief. For now, the only ray they can tolerate is that of hope that one day they can face the sun without any fear or pain. But even as they anxiously wait for a medical cure, they have largely embraced intermarriage as a preventive measure to secure their future generations. This is the story of the Ilimanyang community, a community that has been greatly affected by the adverse impacts of climate change that have brought about extremely high temperatures. They are now calling on the government to offer them food and more so water. Elizabeth Atieno, TV 47 from Kapua, Turkana County.